This is actually one of our favorites at home and also in the studio. Relatively healthy, not too much of added sugar, and then it's packed with the fresh apples and some berries to make it healthier. So this is one of those dishes that can fill both dessert and breakfast. Alright, let's have a look at the ingredients. Okay. For the crumble topping, we will need 70 grams of plain flour, 1 tablespoon of desiccated coconut. This is optional. If you don't have it, you can leave it out, but it gives a really nice toasty flavor when you bake it in the oven. Yeah, 4 heaped tablespoons of oats. I'm using instant oats for this. Okay, 1.5 tablespoon of brown sugar. This sugar can be reduced if you want to have your topping less sweet. A little pinch of salt, cinnamon powder. I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and 50 grams of cold butter. I'm using unsalted butter. It won't really matter if you use salted or unsalted butter. And it has to be cut into cubes and kept chilled. For the fruit portion, I'm using green apples. Okay, so Granny Smith or green apples. These are nice and tart. Okay, gives a nice sour flavor. And after you bake the apple crumble, it will not become too soft or disintegrate. It will keep the shape quite nicely. You know? If you have berries, you can add that in, a handful of berries. I'm using some blueberries and some mulberries. We're going to flavor with a little bit more brown sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of brown sugar. Actually quite little. The dessert will not taste very sweet. Again, if you want to have your dessert more sweet or less sweet, you can adjust the amount of sugar that you add. A little bit of corn flour, 2 tablespoons of corn flour, and then honey, 1.5 tablespoons of honey. Right. 9 cups, or you can have one big baking dish and then scoop it out to eat. I'll just show you how I peel and chop the apple. Okay, sometimes from experience in the studio, we know that some people chop the apple pieces too big or too small. Okay, so let's have a look at the best size for chopping the. Okay, cut it in half, then in quarters, and then take out the. And then usually each quarter I will cut in half again, and then again in 4. Okay, so 4, half, half, half. Okay, so this will be giving you the perfect size for the apple. Okay, so you cut. I will mix the apples with the berries that I have today. Let's break this. More berries a little smaller. Blueberries. And then the corn flour, 2 teaspoons of corn flour. This helps to thicken up when you bake the crumbles. The fruits, the apple will release liquid, and the corn flour will help to thicken up that liquid. Okay, so 2 teaspoons of corn flour, 1.5 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1.5 tablespoons of honey. Give it a mix. So time for the topping. Okay, plain flour, you don't even have to sift it. Okay, let's pour it in. Oats, coconut, brown sugar, a little bit of salt, cinnamon powder, grams of cold butter cut into cubes. rubbing in method. So what we're going to do, coat the butter with a bit of the flour, and then we're going to start rubbing in. Pick up 1 cube of butter, squash it, break it into smaller pieces, and just drop it back in the bowl. Pick it up, break it into smaller pieces, and drop it back. Okay, so the first step of the rubbing in is to get the butter into smaller pieces. Okay, so at this stage, I can see that it's starting to look like a crumble. I have bits and pieces stuck together. Okay, some is bigger, there's some bigger chunks of butter still. It's okay, it will melt away in the oven. Okay, and it's a loose crumble, okay, so I can actually shake it. Okay, can you see I can drop it down, okay, in a crumble topping. This is exactly what I want. If you continue to rub the mixture or to handle it too much after this point, it will actually turn into one ball of dough. Okay? And for this recipe, it's not those doughy kind of crumbles. We do want something that is really nice and light. Okay? A light crumble topping. Apple pieces. Okay, stir it again. You'll see a lot of the liquid actually accumulate in the bottom of your bowl. So do give it a good stir before you divide it between the cups. And just going to scoop into the cups. And when you bake, it will actually sink in as the apples soften. So even though it looks quite full now, after you bake, it might make only half a cup. Okay, it will sink. Then the topping. Okay, usually I'll pick up the cup from the baking tray. It's a little bit easier. And put it over your bowl and just drop the topping. So by doing this, those additional extra toppings will just fall back into the bowl. These apple crumbles will bake at 180 degrees Celsius. I will position it somewhere in the middle of the oven. It will take around 25 minutes to 30 minutes to bake. You will know when it's cooked, when you will see the juices of the apple actually bubbling all around the outside of the cups. And when you taste it with a skewer, you can use a skewer or a point of a sharp knife. You want to feel that the apples are actually tender, so your apples are soft. Okay? It should be golden brown, and you will definitely smell the toasted coconut, and yeah, you will smell the cinnamon and the apples, and it will just smell amazing. Right, so I can smell the crumbles. Okay, I can see the fruit bubbling up around the outside. Okay, those juices. It's golden brown, and then what we want to do is to taste it with a knife. Just insert a knife into the fruit and feel whether it's soft. Okay, that should be nice and soft. So this is done.